is Jess Arce with Lexia Learners, and I am so glad to have you here and want to welcome you to the stage. And I can't wait to see your presentation. So glad to have you here. Hello, Jess.
Hello, thank you. So 1 in 5 people in the world are dyslexic, yes, yet very few people know what it is. So I am here today to help clear up some of the misunderstandings about dyslexia. And as Haley said, my name is Jess Arce. I am the owner and founder of Lexia Learners, and we improve lives for struggling students and bring harmony to families through tutoring and homeschool classes virtually anywhere now. So statistics show that people with dyslexia are all around us. That dyslexia is one of the largest learning differences in the world. Like I said, 1 in 5 people in the world have dyslexia. And even people who have it don't know they have it. And if you don't know you have it, you can't get help for it. So 35% of CEOs and entrepreneurs in the US are dyslexic. Famous people like Henry Ford, Charles Schwab, Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, all had dyslexia. And these men are highly respected today for their success. However, when they were children going to school, they were not respected. Albert Einstein was sent home and his mother was told that he was unteachable. And obviously, he knew a lot more than his kindergarten or early childhood teacher ever imagined that he did. So if people are aware of that they're struggling with dyslexia, it could really reduce a lot of the anxiety that exists in our country and in our world. Studies have shown that dyslexic teens are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide. And according to the Decoding Dyslexia Tennessee division, 89% of the suicide notes that are left behind exhibit characteristics of dyslexia. So these notes are very obviously written by dyslexic people. And being dyslexic myself, I realize how challenging it is as a young person to compete in the world that you're expected to thrive in. You know, as a child, our job is to be a student, and we are expected to be an excellent student. And dyslexic people thrive to do their best, but often fall short of what the expectations are. So since people don't know that they're dyslexic very often, they think something's wrong with them. They don't realize that they're not alone in the world, that other people are struggling just like them, because we are taught to hide what our weaknesses are. We are taught to just, show what we're good at, or pretend like we're good at things, or pretend like we're perfect. And so when you just continually fall short of expectations of your teachers, of your parents, of your peers, of your boyfriend or girlfriend, then you just eventually give up. And so very often dyslexic people are told that they're lazy, they're not trying, and they are. So they finally just stop trying because they don't want to. I mean, if people already think that they're not trying anyway, and they're breaking their back to do their best, why should they keep trying to do their best? So that's why if people are aware of what's going on, they can live up to the expectations better, or people can change their expectations of them or help them to succeed. 85% of youths in juvenile detention facilities have some sort of learning disability. I personally don't like to use the word disability. I like to say learning difference, because I don't think it is a disability. I just think we all learn differently. And our educational system is only set up for one type of learner. I have 4 children, and only one of my 4 children was the ideal student. And so I ended up homeschooling my 3 younger children at various points in their educational career because they didn't thrive in the educational system. So 37% of students struggling are receiving some sort of services in school. So 85% of the juvenile detention facilities have dyslexic or students with learning disabilities, and only 35% were receiving any type of services. And typically the services that they provide in school are not even the right kind of services. They don't know how to teach students in our public or private school system, because more money has been spent on trying to disprove dyslexia as a learning difference than spending the money on providing the proper help. So I've tutored students for the last 10 years, and this is actually my last year personally tutoring, because I want to be able to help more people. And if I am tutoring only 18 students maximum a year, I can't help that many. But if I'm hiring people and training people how to do the tutoring, then we can help hundreds of students annually. And so I've tutored a couple of students who were both 18 years old. And when they first started tutoring, they were both on 3rd grade reading levels. And one of them could not add 6 + 4. And the other one had some basic math abilities, but they were really not very high. And so through tutoring, they both tutored about 18-20 months. And at the end of that 18-20 months, they were both on a high school reading level. And they were both able to do math. And one of the students, when we were finishing up working together, we actually prepared her resume together, and she got a job as a cashier at Kmart. And recently, her resume popped up on my Google Docs because we created her resume on there, and she had edited it. And she was applying for a job at Ralph's as an assistant manager. It just warms my heart, because this girl could not read. Just about 5 years ago, she could not read beyond a 3rd grade reading level. And now she's applying for a job as an assistant manager. It really makes a difference when you know why your child's struggling, or why you struggled your whole entire life. And getting the right help is all the difference, especially for someone who has profound or severe dyslexia, because dyslexia is a spectrum, just like everything in life, right? And so some people have mild dyslexia, like one of my sons, and we didn't even know he was dyslexic until I was doing a presentation and he was helping me with the camera, and he listened to my presentation and he said, "Mom, I think I'm dyslexic." Now, we knew he had dysgraphia, which is difficulty with writing, but we didn't know he was dyslexic because his was so mild. But then my daughter, she was the reason that I have gone down this journey, because she has profound dyslexia, and she could not draw stick figures as a preschooler. And she couldn't cut with scissors. And so these were her fine motor skills that were not developed. And I was a preschool teacher at the time, so I was very familiar with the fact that she was not capable of doing things that that other preschoolers typically could do. And I spent the next 10 years trying to figure out what was going on. And I finally found out. We moved to Texas, and we were there only 1 week. And my daughter's teacher said, "Oh, she's dyslexic." And she knew this because in in Texas, they're trained to identify dyslexia. So she got help, and she didn't get the help until she was 12 years old. But finally, she was able to start learning how to read. And when we left Texas, we discovered, because I needed to start helping my own kids, we discovered that I was dyslexic. I was told I had a reading disability as a kid, and I was held back in 3rd grade because I couldn't read, but I didn't know what it was. And then I realized my husband was dyslexic. And so that's how we ended up with 3 of our 4 children being dyslexic, because both my husband and I turned out to be dyslexic. So, my mission in life now is to help educate people so that they know what dyslexia looks like, so that if their child or if they are struggling with dyslexia, they can get the help they need. And I'm about to publish a book, and this book is written by a dyslexic for dyslexics. So it is written in a way that it's easy to read and understand, because I've picked up dyslexia books and I'm like, I'm not reading that book. I'm a good reader, or I'm a decent reader, but I don't enjoy reading. And so I prefer to skim through something and not actually read the details of it. So for that reason, I wanted to make sure that the book was written very clearly and short, so that people would actually read it and learn what it says. So if you would like a copy of this book, I'm going to pre-release it, and it will be free to you. So please let me know if that's something that you would like. And if you would like to learn more about dyslexia, I offer a free 30-minute consultation, and you can tell me what's going on. And I can typically tell by the end of our phone conversation if you have dyslexia or if your child has dyslexia. Because now, like my daughter's teacher, I am very familiar with what dyslexia looks like. So I can diagnose it, not diagnose, because I am not a diagnostician, but I can let you know if I believe that you have dyslexia. And then we can help you out if you are, or if your child is dyslexic. We can give you some suggestions if you're not looking for tutoring. But if you are looking for tutoring, it is life-changing. My husband, I tutored him about 3 years ago for 18 months. And he went from being a struggling reader to being a confident reader, who he moved up 5 reading levels in just 18 months. And so, it's life-changing when you can confidently read or read out loud. Then you can achieve anything, because in today's society, reading is absolutely necessary. Now, it's wonderful that we have audiobooks available, and I have become a huge personal audiobook user in just the last 3 months. I recommended it to people for years, but I have never taken the time to start doing it. And I really wanted to start reading more this year. So I decided I would give audiobooks a try. And one of the reasons why I never really went after audiobooks before was because I'm not an auditory person. So when I'm reading the audiobooks, I'm also looking at what the text says so that I'm not just listening. And then it forces me to focus on that and not be distracted, because when I watch videos, I tend to be distracted and look at other things. If you can't tell, I'm also ADHD. So, which that is a very common characteristic to come along with dyslexia. About 25% of people who are dyslexic also have ADD or ADHD. And I would say of the student population that I work with, I'd say about 70% of our students have ADD or ADHD. And so that's one of the requirements when I hire a tutor. They need to know how to work with people who have ADD or ADHD, because that's something that is very important, that you can refocus them and get them to pay attention and enjoy what they're learning. So we've recently started a support group because I find that often our students think that they're alone in the world, and they don't realize that there's other people who have dyslexia. And like I said earlier, people are very often ashamed and don't want to talk about it. I walk around with shirts that say, you know, you might be dyslexic if you if life gives you melons, you might be dyslexic, or ask me about dyslexia, or, you know, I wear shirts that talk about being dyslexic. My family talks about it all the time, but that's not the case with most families. So we have a support group that's for children and adults, and we meet the third Thursday of every month on Zoom. And starting this month, we're going to have guest speakers who will be presenting, talking about their experience as dyslexic people. Our guest this month she's super dyslexia girl, and she is going to talk about her experience going to community college and the university level and getting accommodations. And next month, we have a speaker who works for the California governor, Governor Newsom, and how when COVID hit, he was struggling immensely because he needed to be reading all sorts of information and they were emailing it to him. And that was a struggle for him. So he had to talk to his work and get accommodations. And as I'm sure everyone can imagine, that probably was very embarrassing, but he needed to do that in order to continue to do his job. So he's going to talk to us next month about that. So I invite you to join our online group. It's called Lexia Learners Lounge. And I also have 2 support groups on Facebook. One is for parents of kids with dyslexia, and one is for adults with dyslexia. And so the topics will be slightly different on those 2 groups because we'll be addressing different information, right? Because if you're worried about your child, you want to know some basic things to help them out. And if you're an adult struggling with dyslexia, you want to know more about getting accommodations at work, how to talk to your employers and not worry about getting fired. Because yes, legally they cannot fire you, but people find ways around. So, you know, you want to feel safe where you spend most of your time, which is at school or at work. And I invite you to join our groups and be a part of our community. Because if you're struggling with reading, spelling, math, writing, but you're bright. You probably have dyslexia, dysgraphia, or dyscalculia. And you shouldn't be ashamed because there's strengths that come along with those struggles. If you think about those famous people I mentioned at the beginning, Henry Ford, he invented I can't think of the word now, but where he made it so that people could afford to buy cars. And Thomas Edison tried thousands of times before he got the light bulb right. Well, he probably didn't give up because he was dyslexic and learned as a child he couldn't give up, you know? So these people are perfect examples of how dyslexia is also a strength. Thank you, everybody. Again, I'm Jess Arce with Lexia Learners.
Thank you so much, Jess. Everybody give Jess a round of applause. Thank you. And I am so glad that you were here today with us. That was very informative. I've heard the statement by Albert Einstein that if you judge a fish's intelligence by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its life thinking that it's dumb.
Yeah. And that's coming from a dyslexic person.
Absolutely.
Yes. What is your website? Because I can't see past you. It says Lexia Learners. Is that .com? What is
Yes.
it?
Oh, you still can't see it. But yes, it's lexialearners.com.
Thank you.